Ozzy's had a lot of clothing in his life, and Sharon Osbourne told this story.
I was just really broken in every sense.
She cut every sleeve off every coat I own.
Anyways, enter LGFG Fashion House. Like, hey, we'd like to have you wear our suits that are appropriate to Ozzy's rock and roll image and to Ozzy Osbourne himself. Let me first of all tell you the story of how it was that we got in with Ozzy Osbourne, okay? So I will be transparent. He was a direct referral from his guitar player from the later stages of Black Sabbath, which is Zakk Wylde. You know, Ozzy's had a lot of clothing in his life. He's had a lot of suits in his life. And Sharon Osbourne told this story publicly on Piers Morgan. Some years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, so sometime around the pandemic, Sharon found out that Ozzy was having some extracurricular activity outside of his marriage at a level that Sharon was very displeased with. So she went through Ozzy's closet and she cut the sleeves off of all of his suits. Anyways, enter Dimitry and LGFG Fashion House. Like, hey, we'd like to work with you and have you wear our suits. Now, some considerations when working with a guy like Ozzy Osbourne. Let's first of all look at it from a tailor's perspective, okay? One of the things a tailor needs to evaluate is the body of the person for whom they are tailoring. And Ozzy has a fairly easy body, like relatively speaking, a fairly easy body to tailor for because Ozzy is a very average build all around. He is not rotund. He's not particularly thin. He is not overly tall or short. He's sort of a very average build man. And that is a great thing for tailoring because when you have an average build, you can wear anything. There's nothing wrong with making Ozzy Osbourne a flat front or a pleated trouser. You don't have to worry about things like lapel width in order to compensate for a disproportionate chest. Like if you look at our collection for Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman or Martin Ford or Brian Shaw or Eddie Hall or Greg Doucette, you see an oversized lapel to match the width of the shoulders. For Ozzy, those considerations are out the window because everything will work pattern-wise. So that's a great canvas to work on as a tailor. Other than that, there wasn't anything particularly, he had a little bit of a sway figure. Sway figures can generally be genetic. It's something meaning like you're shaped a little bit like an S, like you kind of lean forward a little bit with your hips. When you lean forward a little bit with your hips, then you have to tailor the pants for that in order to not have lines across your thighs. So that was a pretty obvious and simple one. Also, when you have a bit of a sway figure, you have to consider cutting the jacket in a way that the waist doesn't come out too much because what happens is you just have to shape it a little bit more specifically to the shape. So as a tailor, first you look at the overall build of a gentleman. I'm going to refer you guys to Dress Like a Boss by Michael Franzese. So this is actually a book by Michael Franzese in conjunction with LGFG Fashion House, where we talk about which body shapes would be ideal for which kind of garments. You actually see here men's body shape glossary, what your shape is and what patterns you can or should not wear. Again, Ozzy being of average build, everything works. By the way, if you're learning something from this video, I would love for you to subscribe to our channel. We have so much information here about learning how to be a better version of yourself. There's so many facets about becoming the person you'll one day become. And right now, you're becoming the person you'll one day become. So subscribe to this channel. Give us a like. It'll be worth it for you. And then the next consideration after body shape and after, bodily idiosyncrasies for a particular gentleman, we have to consider lifestyle. And so we actually went in a sort of bifurcated Ozzy's wardrobe on two factors. On one side, you have the stuff that he's going to be wearing on travel, and the other side is you have stuff he's going to be wearing on camera. So this is something very important with our clients. For example, a gentleman that travels a lot will have a certain preference for garments which wrinkle less. This is obvious. And so one consideration for Ozzy Osbourne would be fabrics which simply wrinkle less. So let's talk about fabrics that wrinkle less. The weave of the fabric. Well, first of all, the material it's constructed from, like wool, like cotton, and all those things. So wool is fine for wrinkling, but different kinds of wools will wrinkle differently. Cotton is terrible for wrinkling. Cotton will wrinkle. Then something with a little bit of an infused, let's say, added material that would not be a pure cotton, but would give it wrinkle-resistant properties, like those non-iron shirts are really good for travel. Or you go with very, very high-end cotton with the longest strains, like, like a Swiss cotton, something approaching a 42 Giza. We have those as well. You pay more, they're more natural. The trade-off, of course, on wrinkleability is the clothing that wrinkle less tend to get hotter easier. Remember that. However, in competition with the anti-wrinkling, as I said, things that wrinkle less tend to get hotter. We don't want things that are hot for Ozzy for a couple of reasons. Number one, Ozzy's in his 70s. Like, you don't want to be in your 70s and feel hot in your clothing. You're already wanting to wear things that are light and comfortable. You guys notice this. As people get older, comfort becomes more of a premium. And the other thing is, on Ozzy, because he's podcasting from his home studio, he's often under lights because you need good lighting. There's cameras. The rooms can get hot. So we're looking at wrinkle resistance. We're looking at not getting hot. And then for Ozzy, there's one other aspect. Now, this is the final aspect of tailoring, and very few tailors get an opportunity to experience this. For image, we used a lot of Ozzy imagery like bats, like crosses, like concerts, fire, like rock and roll insignia. But the insignia is much more gothic because, again, Ozzy's connected to like bats and skulls and sort of that dark, he's one of the godfathers of rock. I mean, I put Ozzy up there with Alice Cooper. Alice is more vaudeville. And Ozzy takes a more serious approach rather than like Alice, who takes a more comical approach. Now, we did Alice Cooper's wardrobe as well, so you can check it out. You can see me talking about that. But for Ozzy, we definitely went with that gothic rock and roll theme. And the colors, what I love about the colors is we were able to work with everyday colors, but with richer and derivative texture. So, for example, there's a beautiful overshirt we made for Ozzy, and we made it in a dark wash denim. So instead of using like a classic blue, we did an overshirt. We put a couple extra pockets on it to give a little depth to the action of the shirt because we don't want it to look simplistic. And in the dark wash, it has this sort of a rich blue with gray intersect on it, which adds depth to the garment. It was fantastic on Ozzy. It so perfectly worked with his golden accessories and his canes. It was just beautiful. And then another example would be like a very risky garment where we did a sort of a deep maroon 3/4 length linen wool. So this is a podcast garment. So it's got a very striking color contrast to the rest of Ozzy because you have a lot of black on Ozzy and then you have this sort of deep maroon. And the linen in the wool on this jacket accomplishes two things. Number one, it makes it more breathable because linen's great for breathability. And number two, the textures of the linen add depth. And so with Ozzy, when you're doing a wardrobe for Ozzy, you're always thinking about micro details and depth. Like the 3-piece 3/4 length suit we did for him, the stripes say Ozzy Osbourne in gold. Now, we haven't done gold lettering before. The reason we did gold is because Ozzy wears a lot more gold than he does silver. He's a gold guy. So that matched perfectly with his jewelry. And then the buttons on that jacket were skulls. We actually just had some skulls. And then we put buttonholes through them and then we sewed them into the jacket. So we have like real, silver skull buttons. Again, why silver? Because it juxtaposes beautifully with gold. This is historically known. And again, part of Ozzy's gothic image is also kind of like this chair. Like there's a little bit of a luxury gothic when it comes to Ozzy Osbourne. He likes his chains, he likes his crosses. Other examples that we implemented in Ozzy's wardrobe, lots of stripes. So Ozzy is very well known for stripes. Stripes evoke power, right? And Ozzy's music, Ozzy's image is quite a lot to do with power. So there was a lot of power in consideration. There was wrinkle resistance in consideration. So a lot of the garments, like the pants we did, the custom pants, were all done with a little bit of Trivera in the fabric or using a much stretchier natural wool than is mostly available to the public. So lots of cotton blends, linen blends, some bamboo blends, just things that are going to breathe better, but are still going to perform excellent on camera with the color and contrast that are appropriate to Ozzy's rock and roll image and to Ozzy Osbourne himself.
Sharon, what was your favorite outfit?
There's so many favorite outfits. I love the check overcoat in the brown and well, it was a beige and brown check. I love it. And I love the long purple jacket. I love the evening pants with the purple jacket and the blue suit. But in fact, everything really.